as Hurts did just enough to get it done. Kirk Cousins put impressive fantasy numbers up. However, those turnovers continue to haunt this Viking team. Joining us now, and someone who's joined us quite a bit in his past job, but now, of course, with the NFL Network, as we mentioned earlier, Mike Yam joins us now, the right to the guest line here on Fox Sports Phoenix. How we doing, Mike? Roc and Manuch, what's going on?
Doing great, boys. Always good to be with you and appreciate the invite.
Yeah, well, no, we appreciate having you on as always. All right, since you're there, the NFL Network, it doesn't get any bigger than that. Can you tell us who's Zach Wilson's backup for the New York Jets?
It's been the mystery of the week.
I just looked on the depth charts. I don't see anybody. You have any inside scoop?
Yeah. Well, I don't think they're making any moves, guys. I mean, it's been a hot topic of conversation, at least in our office, about, what's next. Do they go and try to find another quarterback now that Aaron Rodgers is down and is on the mend at this point from that Achilles surgery? But look, they're rolling with Zach. He's going to be their guy. I don't know how much depth there is behind him. Now, clearly, I believe it was Tim Doyle, who they brought in this offseason, who they were really comfortable, more specifically Aaron Rodgers was really comfortable with. But, he wasn't even active for that game the other night against Buffalo. So I think you guys raise a really good point. And it's funny, I think maybe even during the broadcast, if I'm not mistaken, was it Randall Cobb who had played a little quarterback at some point in high school? Yeah. So it's a little uphill battle here at this point. But I think right now, from a Jets perspective, they feel like they got the one guy, maybe even on the planet, who is most ready to lead this team's offense in week number 2. Remember, like short week, you start thinking about, coming off a Monday night game and relearning a playbook, and they kind of have to roll with Zach. And not for nothing, they were 5-1 last year with Zach at the helm to start the season. So he has shown that he can lead this football team, but I think everyone now has to temper those expectations.
And I think also, Mike, is that Boyle he knows the Nathaniel Hackett system per se. He's been there and done that. But to that point, we saw some moves that Jets tried to make. They blocked the practice squad player Brett Rippon from the Rams. They don't want him leaving. And think about that. If you're going to trade for a backup quarterback, they're going, well, wait a second. We're not trading our backup. We need him just in case our guy goes down. So they're kind of caught between the old proverbial rock and a hard spot, unless you want to bring Joe Flacco back or Carson Wentz or whomever.
Once again, those options are limited. It was funny. I was watching postgame on NFL Network during the week. So it was Monday night, actually. Yeah, obviously, because that's the day that he went down. And it was funny because Mike Garafolo, one of our insiders, was on the show, and Siciliano just goes, hey, should we be having this Tom Brady conversation at this point? And Mike was very quick to squash that. And I don't think it goes down that path, but I think it screams to the point that you guys are raising, which is, hey, what if? What does happen here if Zach does go down? And it was a fluky situation in some respects on Rodgers getting hurt, but we've all seen football our entire lives and watched some of these games, and we know how difficult it is at times for players to stay healthy. It is a physical sport. It's a violent sport at times, and really from play to play, you just don't know necessarily what's going to happen. I talked to a former tight end actually a couple weeks ago. It was a buddy of mine, and he said, I think a lot of players play the game with a healthy fear, and I think that's a good way of characterizing it, what it's like for these guys every single Sunday. But to your point, if Zach goes down, we got a real problem in New York.
Mike Yam joining us here, NFL Network studio host on Roc and Manuch with Jimmy B, Fox Sports 910. A lot of intriguing games this weekend for just week 2. The Chiefs, the Bengals, both trying to avoid 0-2 starts. Is there a particular game or two that you're really queuing in on that, hey, if this team does lose this game or this team wins this game, it's really going to make a difference moving forward?
Yeah, I feel good about Cincinnati against Baltimore. You got 4 starters right now for Baltimore not playing in this game, and I find it hard to believe that a week 2 performance from Joe Burrow is going to look like week number 1. So I feel good from their perspective. I got to be honest with you guys. Chiefs Jags, to me, is one of the best games of the weekend. And I think on paper, people would say, yeah, okay, that makes some sense here. But consider this. Chiefs lose in week number 1. Jags are at home for this one. They got an opportunity to go 2-0, right? In that division, that's winnable, which I think most of us would still point to Jacksonville as the team in that division. And then potentially at the end of the season own a tiebreaker against Kansas City because of this head-to-head. Like, this one's really important from a Jacksonville perspective. So I think the juice around that one is certainly big time, and maybe a little less of a high flying game, although they were definitely high flying in week number 1. But Miami going to New England, to me, I don't know why. I feel like Belichick might have something here. Tua, by the way, has never lost to Belichick, which I was surprised. I was looking at some of the numbers earlier this morning. He could be 5-0 if they win this coming weekend. But there's something that tells me, I was impressed by what I saw from the Patriots against Philadelphia in week number 1. I thought the offense looked better with Mac, and that defense is no joke. So tough road trip here, for Miami, open up in Los Angeles, fly back cross country, and have to try to beat the Patriots in the division game. I think that one could be a sneaky good matchup.
Well, speaking of LA, right there in your building, I feel that the Niners coming in to take on the Rams, and how the hell the Rams pulled that off in Seattle last week. Not so much a mystery because you're watching you're watching the quarterback scenario with this team and all that they're doing. But I'm curious to see how this Ram takes on Brock Purdy and this offense and the weapons is really in that defense that the 49ers have as well.
The Niners put up the best performance in week 1 that I think of any of those teams that we watched. I'm with you. I think from a Rams perspective, I didn't anticipate. I don't know if I even mentioned this to you guys when I was on with you last. Like, I thought Seattle had a little bit of a squad here. I thought they were going to make some noise, and they didn't look great. I think they got to figure out ways to generate a pass rush, but for a team like the Rams that's got a young roster, so much turnover, 8 defensive starters from a season ago that are not with this team, and the fact that they don't have Cooper Kupp because he's on IR, and it's Tutu Atwell, and it's Puka Nacua, and those guys are the ones leading this team. I thought that was as impressive of a win as you could possibly throw out there, considering the expectation level and the personnel that they're throwing out there. McVay, tip the cap to him, but the Niners looked friggin' dominant. That defense alone would scare the bejesus out of me. And Brock continues to slice up defenses here. And I don't know how it happens, but it has consistently happened with Brock Purdy. And I guess this is what happens when you're Mr. Irrelevant. But I think we're well past the point of consistently downing this guy. He's going to be in line for a huge contract. I'm not suggesting it's Justin Herbert or Joe Burrow money, but this team consistently wins with him. They don't lose when he finishes a football game. And I get it. He's got a better supporting cast than most players in the NFL. But if that's the case, why is Trey Lance in Dallas? Like, to me, Brock Purdy deserves a ton of credit, and I couldn't be more impressed.
Mike Yam, NFL Network, here with us today. Mike, when you look at the Arizona Cardinals, I'm just kind of curious what the perception is from the NFL Network when you look at this team. The fan base here all figured, hey, they're throwing in the towel this year. No quarterback, brand new coach. I think I had a stat last week, 27 guys that were on the roster last Sunday hadn't been on with a team the previous year. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff going on. What is the overall perception of this Arizona Cardinal team for 2023?
I think everyone starts thinking about 2024. If I'm being totally honest with you.
That's fair.
That's been, look, I'd love to see Kyler out there. I'd love to see him healthy. I'd love to see, what this team can be with him in this lineup. And at some point we will get to see that. And I think it'll be a benefit for the fan base, certainly down there. But it's hard not to think about the turnover that we're seeing from a coach's perspective, from even at times a personnel perspective with this team. We typically, and I'm sure you guys do as well, and I get it. You guys are down in that area, so of course you're going to talk about the Cardinals. But when you have these NFL conversations, you guys are asking me about the premier teams in the NFL. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a common denominator with a lot of those squads. Mm-hmm. It's steady leadership at the top, and you're not seeing this revolving door on changing scheme, changing coaches, having a franchise reset. Like, that's been the story around this team for a while. And I hope to God, it doesn't change. We're not talking about more upheaval, 2 years from now. But if this team doesn't do well, there's the Caleb Williams factor, and I get that. But go tell the players in that locker room that that's the case. Are you kidding me? Can you imagine having that conversation with Budda Baker? You can't. These dudes are out there trying to go and win right now. And I don't think they're worried about quarterback. The guy that's not even in the NFL right now. It's how do we take care of business against Giants team who looked vulnerable after what we saw in week number 1. But I think the perspective, and you asked about what's happening in the conversations around this team in HQ here. I think a lot of us go like, how good could this team be? And, the answer in the short term is not great. And I think that's why there's this narrative around Caleb Williams and what happens in the draft.
Mike, we always love having you on, man. Have a great weekend of football. We appreciate you making time for us.
Yeah, you guys are the best, man. Enjoy the games.
Yeah, thank you. Mike Yam, NFL Network. Follow him on Twitter at Mike_Yam.